Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, this is Umar Hamid, your host, and welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategies, and advice on how to make you better, stronger, faster. Get ready for another episode. Today, I'm privileged to have James Weiskerger here with me. James, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
James, tell me in 90 seconds who you are and what you do.
I'm a real estate broker. I own Next Step Realty. We've created the W Home Group, which is kind of a subdivision of Next Step Realty, which really is comprised of top talent, top realtors in the area. And the game plan with that was to form a team that is just only filled with just really smart, savvy agents who just kind of understand and have the same passion that I do as, you know, we grow the business. And so it's been probably about 6 years since I started Next Step Realty, and our team's been in business for about almost 8 months now, and we'll probably end the year somewhere in the top 10 in Maryland, which is pretty impressive for such a young group.
High five for you.
Yep, appreciate it.
How do you know you're picking the right person for the team?
It's important for me to identify traits in people that I can't train, right? And so, like, work ethic is like unbelievably important to me. Mm-hmm. It's probably like the foundation of my success, I think. Just agents who kind of get it, and I can generally tell pretty quickly with talking to realtors or even through a transaction with another realtor, just exactly kind of who the good ones are based on their interaction, their customer service. And so most of my team were realtors who either were in the business, but most of them actually were people who had no prior real estate experience. I brought from other sales backgrounds and actually brought them into the real estate business.
Nice. There's this interview I heard with Will Smith. He was saying, there's people out there with way more talent than me, but nobody's out there that can work harder than me.
That's correct. It's definitely a similar motto that I probably follow.
Before we started this interview, you were mentioning the number of realtors in the state of Maryland.
42,000?
42,000. And if we were going to categorize them into 4 food groups, A players, the superstars,
sure, the
B players, the C players, the D players, what percentage of that 42,000 plus do you think would be A players?
Probably 0.5%.
0.5% would be the elite.
Yeah.
The B players?
That probably, I would say, is maybe 30% probably.
And C's and D's, everybody else?
Probably, I'd say another 20% or so, and the rest probably funnels to the D group. Yeah, the problem with real estate is there's really low barriers to entry.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you need like a GED. You need, I think, a 70% or better on the state exam.
Right.
It's pretty easy to get in the business. And I think everyone watches like these shows and thinks,
I could do that. Yeah,
but like, you know, it takes a ton of effort. And I don't really believe in selling real estate part-time. I think it's an absolute full-time gig. And the ones who do it part-time, I think, really struggle because it's really hard to find the time to like really dive into it and be successful.
You've been doing this business for a while. You've probably come across some B players that you can clearly see this person could be a rock star, but for whatever reason, they don't make the jump over. Have you ever come across a situation like that?
Yeah, but I think some people are okay with being B players.
So there's a complacency or I'm okay with this?
Yeah, I think it's like I'm okay with my income level.
Right.
And I'm okay with selling what I sell, and like I don't really want to work 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week to get to the next level.
Right.
And that's completely fine. That's not what I want on my team, but that's completely fine. And so they're still really quality realtors. They're just not as hungry and have like all the components that I think makes like someone exceptional.
If somebody was coming into this business, what would be the best advice you could give them? Here are the 3 things you need to keep in mind to be successful.
I think you have to treat it like a job, like any other job. I mean, I tell all new agents, like, come to the office every day. Get to the office like at 8 a.m. as you would any other job. And I don't care if you have nothing to do. There's always things to be done. I mean, I could work continuously for 24 hours straight for a long, long time before I like ended like the actual workload, because it never ends, right? It ends when you say it ends. And so I think for new agents, it's important for them to just shadow and be around other agents who produce. I think you learn a lot. And when I first started in the business, I came to the office every morning and I would just sit there and listen and learn and pick up things. And on occasion, the bigger agents in my office when I first started would give me kind of smaller leads of things they didn't want to handle, but it was still opportunity for me, which I took advantage of.
Nice. You've put a team together. You could get talented people coming into a team, but forming it into a team is something else. You can get a bunch of individuals coming.
Sure.
But you can get people coming together as a team, which makes it stronger. What was the thought process before you started recruiting? And then what were the methodologies you used to ensure that this team would gel?
That's important, though, because I think having one bad apple can really make a team dynamic, not as enjoyable. And the good part is now, our team is a really close-knit group. And so as we grow, I want to be mindful of who we allow kind of in that group because it's important. I want to make sure everyone has enough help, has enough supervision so they can continue to grow. And I think if you grow too fast, it can become a problem where you're not able to offer them all the resources as you promised them. And so I'm pretty mindful of the time frame of taking on new people on the team to make sure that whoever comes on board, whatever I promise them I'm going to give them, I'm able to actually deliver.
Nice. So tell me, did you have any growing pains as you put the team together?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's at times I thought about just selling on my own because it's easier. It is. I think before I started the team, my last year as an individual, I think I sold $45 million in real estate, which is a pretty high amount for an individual.
Yes.
I think our team of 10 will do probably about $120 million to put that in perspective. And
nice.
So to do $45 million on your own is a lot, but at the same time, you give up a lot in order to sell that much. So the idea of the team was that we all can kind of share in this together, the growth of myself and the company. And so the hardest part, I think, was just trying to identify people who would be a good fit for what we were building. They just have to believe in the vision, because I think in Maryland, there's a really good opportunity to grow at a fast rate and be the top team in the area. And we're not there yet, but I have no doubt in the next few years we can get there.
There's a brilliant lady more in the Northern Virginia, Washington area. Her name's Carrie Schul. And so she's doing about $250 a year.
It's a lot.
And when she was doing a presentation, what was really fascinating was, for her, it was very much marketing driven, math driven. It was more the analytical side of the business.
Sure.
And the joy and the candy was doing the transaction. So how does that fit into your math?
So I have partners as we grow who have taken on that role, who break down exactly what we spend in certain areas of marketing and our ROI per area. And to me, it's a numbers game, right? If I know that 100 calls equals 5 leads equal 1 sale, then I know in order to get, let's just say 5 sales, I need to make 500 phone calls.
Right.
And so we can kind of figure out exactly where we need to increase market, budget, and exactly where we need to, areas that we can grow in order to achieve the results that we want.
Brilliant. How long's the team's been around? For 8 months?
Yeah. Yep.
Looking back at it, what would you have done differently in growing this team? Were there any things that, hindsight, you go, oh, I wish I would have done that sooner?
I probably could have done a better job of, even though we're a team, I still want the agents to have their own individual, touch and feel in their own, past clients and their own sphere of influence. And I think when I originally started the team, I had all the marketing be more specific to the team, not really to them. And the reason they get all the referrals from all their past clients is really based on them, not the team. So it's understanding that the value of the team or them with the team is really them themselves. And when you market to their past clients, they need to be more focused on the actual individual agent, not so much myself.
That's brilliant. And sometimes people take years to figure that out.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine.
Tell me about one of the areas where one of your team members came over with a problem of, how do we make the team better? This isn't working for me. How do you handle that?
Well, having a small group of people who I consider friends makes it easy because we have bi-weekly meetings, and the meetings are more like an open forum where
nice.
It's what's not working, what is working. Because I'm not always right, and neither is my office manager, and she's the best. And we have another partner, Kelly, who does a lot of our media stuff. But it's listening to what the problems are and then finding solutions for the problems too, because I just think that if you take a collaborative effort of everyone's opinion, everyone feels more vested in the process. And as you grow, it's helpful because then when things actually work that they suggested, they feel more part of the team.
Do you, as an individual and as a company, do you have strategic partners out there that help you grow? And what are those relationships, and how do you make sure both parties win?
So we have, mortgage vendors, and we have title companies, and I focus a lot on past clients. I focus a lot on like my sphere of influence and people who I probably have, let's say 10 to 15 people who like consistently refer me business. And so I want to make sure those 10 to 15 people are always like, just know how much I appreciate what they do for us. And I try to, one thing we created when we started the team, we have a 32 point touch system, which is 32 emails, letters, cards, flyers, whatever it may be, to all of our past clients in our sphere of influence. And it's a lot of work to do that, but it's like unbelievably effective in terms of getting referrals. And so I always want to be in front of my past clients in my sphere of influence as often as possible. And our lenders and our title companies allow us the ability to do that because they help, pay for some of the advertising and the marketing as we jointly do it together, which is great.
So how do you make it personalized to you? Because I know there's lots of systems out there, Buffini and others. Is there a special kind of look, feel, connection that you're trying to get with your touches?
Yeah, so all of ours are organically created, which requires a lot more work, obviously. I don't really believe in newsletters. I don't really believe in soup recipes or like gardening tips. I just don't think those things really speak to people.
Right.
And so that's why we decided to actually organically create them. And they're all custom about just maybe the time of year or different things that may be coming up. But I just think by making them more custom, they actually speak to the client more, which is important. I think otherwise, I just don't know how many newsletters you can get that are so redundant that look like the exact same. I just don't know how effective those things are long term.
Do you have a feedback loop with your customers to know that you're relevant, still on track, and serving them in the way they want?
Yeah, so part of our system requires 2 calls a year, which we do. And it's not the easiest calls to make, but they're really, really important to make because it's unbelievable that people, even after they get 32 things in the mail or emails, sometimes don't realize like what we do is so geared off referrals, right? Where I've spoken to clients and helped them with small ancillary favors, and maybe at the end of the conversation I say, hey, by the way, if you know of anyone looking to buy or sell, let me know. And they'll say, oh, my good friend's looking for a house. Mind you, they just got 32 mailers from us in different touches, and like that wasn't enough as a trigger point to like make them refer me a deal. I actually had actually ask. And so it's one of those things that, I never mind asking for referrals. I think a lot of people don't do that. And I just, obviously they were satisfied with our service. And so to ask them if they have friends who are already buying a house, but to use us doesn't seem like a big request.
The landscape seems to be changing. Good example, Ubers of the world. If you want any pharmaceuticals that can be delivered to you from Canada, beyond. What's the shift in real estate, in that transaction between agents and brokers and consumers? Like, what are you envisioning and how are you allowing for that?
So it gives the consumer a lot more power now because they have the same search tools that we have. Our search tools allow us to look up non-MLS listed homes, which is kind of smart for us to have a back channel of data that actually consumers can't get. So a lot of times I leverage that information with buyers to make sure they obviously use us for their services because it's data they can't get on their own. So as the online platform continues to grow, it does give the buyer a greater chance to do a lot of the research on their own prior to actually contacting a realtor when 15, 20 years ago, they actually were almost forced to call a realtor because that's the only way they would be able to get the data. And so it's, as the market continues to grow, I think most of our attention for marketing is spent online because I know that's where all the buyers are shopping.
Brilliant, because I'm hearing from some folks that connection you have with your customer is going to be all the more important now if you've got that strong relationship that's there, because consumers will have the power. And there's a lot more realtors out there looking to make it happen.
Sure.
And the people that are going to win are the ones that have added value and maintain those relationships.
The message that we always try to convey is that we do a better job than most, right? And so all of our marketing is pretty consistent with, it matters who you choose as a realtor. Like a buyer and a seller have the option to interview multiple agents, which I recommend anyone doing. Because it gives them an idea what that individual agent will do for them. And it's in our business, it's frustrating because I see a lot of mistakes that that agents make, and it costs their clients so much money. They just would have interviewed a better agent, they wouldn't be in that situation. And so it's frustrating, but at the same time, I think making sure they're educated about their option to choose is important.
There's a lot of realtors out there that are doing Thanksgiving's going to have come get a pumpkin pie, ongoing touch.
Yep.
As well as we're renting out a movie theater, come.
Sure.
How do you maintain your uniqueness and I'm going to say integrity, because there's a look and feel for what you guys do.
Sure.
And you want to maintain that through all the events.
But it's consistency, right? Like those guys will do one event.
Right.
And I see it all the time. I mean, I could give them my marketing plan and I know for a fact they wouldn't follow through. So that's why it never really concerns me, because back to your categorization of realtors, I think there's so few in the A category who actually will take advantage of that information. I see, obviously through social media, other agents doing those events, but they do them once every 2 years. That's not effective.
Talking about giving people your playbook, I was reading this book. It was about the USS Benfold. It's a guided missile destroyer.
Okay.
And one of the things they ended up doing was they knew that the happiness of the sailor, one of the determining factors is their family back home. And so they would send out a birthday card to family members as well, just to say, hey, we're connected with you.
Sure.
So one of the other ships, that's a brilliant idea. They put a sailor on it, and he sends out all the birthday cards at once. So there's months ahead of when they need to be. So
that's funny.
Just having the plan and having the spirit of it are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any kind of marketing piece. I think you have to give it a certain time, but it has to be consistent. I think if you're going to do a mailer, for example, you just can't do one mailer. Can't do probably 2 mailers. It has to be a concerted effort to do, for a certain period of time. And if you don't get results, that's fine. But I mean, a lot of the things I've learned over my years have been kind of trial and error. And so you have to give it a fair amount of time. But to make it actually a true, just to actually evaluate it correctly, you have to give it an amount of time that's fair.
Companies can measure anything. Agent performance, all kinds of metrics. Is there one particular metric that you keep your finger on the pulse just to make sure the entire company is going in the right direction?
I pay attention most to revenue created by our agents, because that number reflects how well they're doing, but also how well the company itself is doing, right?
Nice.
And so I don't really care what I sell. What I sell is great in theory, but it's really kind of icing on the cake. I want them to be successful, and that also makes the brokerage and the brand successful as well.
Brilliant. And it also focuses the company. If that's what we're looking to do, then how do we help them do that really well? I'm a firm believer of picking one metric.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's this only works if they're all successful, right? And so there's tons of times where I get calls from buyers or sellers that I just give away to people on my team, because I know that empowers them to be able to sell more and have more of a reach. And so I could take it myself, of course, but I choose not to, because I'd much rather give it to them and watch them succeed.
I was talking to a VP a couple of days ago on an interview like this, and the question was, because it's more traditional sales, what do you do when you have a talented salesperson that falls into a slump? Because sometimes that can last a while.
Sure.
And he says, I tell them to give stuff away. This is our deal. If you discount it as much as you want, just get that next sale done and get some movement started, and it gets them back on track really, really quickly. And I thought, that's for a VP to say that, because normally it's all about margin. It was hey, they're more valuable unstuck than they are.
Yeah, it does make sense. I just think that I think motion helps, and I think it just gets them busy, which I think then leads to more transactions, which leads to the company's success, and it's a win-win for everyone.
How would you describe the culture of this company?
Passionate, hardworking, pretty determined. I mean, everyone has the same vision, and we know who the leaders are. We know what they do, and I honestly feel we do a better job than them. And so, again, the people at the top have been doing this for remarkably longer than we have, and I think we have just a really good opportunity, because we actually have people who actually care about the client. That, to me, really what it comes down to, offering unparalleled service and making sure you always put the client first.
If you got a new staff person coming on board, so not a realtor,
Yep.
You've got, this is what our culture is, this is what we do. How do you instill it in the hearts and minds of somebody coming on board like that? So it's not just words, it's actually imprinted. So what's that process like?
Yeah, so we do a lot of team building events, a lot of happy hours, a lot of just social things that I think that are important, just to make the person feel welcomed. And then aside from that, though, other people will take that person out to lunch and just get to know them on a more personal level. And I think that the more people that are connected to that new person makes them feel more at home.
Nice. Concerted effort to make sure that happens.
Yeah, because we all have the same goals. And so it's easy when we all have the same goals. We have a text string that we're all on, and it's at times it can be exhausting, but it's great. We all keep each other in the loop of different stuff, and it's nice for new people to hop on there because they see just the communication through all of us as we all kind of talk about various topics of real estate and just how we communicate and interact. And so the good part is we really is a team effort where if one person needs a favor on a Friday night, it's amazing how many times that happens where multiple people step up and it will be more than willing to help.
Brilliant. Before we part company, is there a particular book you'd recommend people pick up and read?
I read a book I think it was last year. I think it was called From Good to Great.
Mm-hmm. That's a brilliant book. Jim Collins.
Yeah. Prior to the real estate company, I had a really successful short sale negotiation company, and it taught me a lot after reading that book of how much better we could have been. And so I take this company now and I evaluate it a lot closer to try to never allow status quo to be acceptable.
Nice. And that question I asked you about what's the one thing you measure comes directly out of that book.
Yeah, for sure. It does. It's a good book.
Thanks so much for sitting down with me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.